It's the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. A Beatles fan's paradise. It's BeatlesARama.com. Tune in. You'll love it. BeatlesARama TV is on the air. And there I am. Hey, it's been a while. I haven't seen you since last year. This is our very first show of 2021. And it gives me a great pleasure to introduce a man who has been producing a show for me every weekend for at least the last 15 years. We've aired it. It's called Every Little Thing, and it's a great show, and it's on Saturday mornings here. Well, not here, but on BeatlesARama.com. Ken Michaels, ladies and gentlemen, he's the one with the deal. How are you, Ken?
I'm good, Pat. Thanks for having me on here.
And we're going to bring Warren Bradley in too, because Warren's been, he's been hanging out underneath the console while he worked on, hooking up his new computer, and so he could do those beautiful graphics that he does every day. How are you, Warren?
I'm doing fine. And you, Pat, how you feeling?
Better than yesterday, not as good as tomorrow.
I hope you feel better soon. And hello, Ken. How you doing?
Very good. So pleased to see you face to face.
Yes, sir.
That's kinks, though. But
on my last show that I did, and I talked to you several times.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time you see me on camera.
That's right. I don't know why you haven't always been on camera.
I can explain that later.
He'll explain it to you off the air.
Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, so look, I'm sure you guys have seen all these memes that have been popping up today with Bernie Sanders. I wanted to throw one up there for you just now. I thought it was pretty good. It's Bernie's Mad Day Out. How about that one, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry I covered you up there, Ken, but there he is.
Very clever.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the better ones. And then there's, of course, this one. You got to find him way over there in the. There you go. So anyway, getting a lot of mileage out of that picture, right?
You're right.
So anyway, like us all, I mean, I got my background was in radio. I must be older than you because I started in 1970 and you started in the early 80s. How did you get into radio to begin with?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to have a career in radio. I envisioned myself as being a DJ, and I grew up on Top 40 radio, and I thought that I could be, a clever, witty DJ for Top 40. I think I kind of misjudged myself. I did a number of different formats on the college radio station at New York Tech on Long Island, New York. I was doing album rock, and I was doing Top 40 on the weekends. So I got a feel for both, and I really love being on the air. And I that's what I envisioned for myself, was being full-time a DJ. It turns out that I ended up being a full-time producer in radio, but I did a lot of part-time work, mainly on Beatles shows.
And you had a lot of work
busy.
And you probably kept busy in the production room too, which probably got you into the producing the shows, right?
Oh, yeah. And I had a great time working in New York City for a company that eventually was bought out by ABC Disney. And I helped to produce syndicated shows and features for different formats of radio. And I love doing production work. I enjoy being on the air more, but, it's a lot of fun. And it helped to prepare me to produce my own shows. So,
Right.
So I know a lot of. Yeah, just 1 second, Warren. I wanted to.
Go ahead.
I got the questions for Ken. If you, and we've talked about this. You go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, and then it'll ask you if it's okay to access your Facebook name and picture, and then if you accept, Future comments will show your name and picture, and then we'll be able to pass those questions along to Ken. What's up, Warren?
Yeah, Ken, you just celebrated your 2000th show?
Yes.
Wow, wow, that's a lot of shows.
Well, it's a combination of a lot of different shows, actually, but Every Little Thing really is most of those 2000. I would say about 1,200 of them is Every Little Thing. So that accounts for about 60% of the work that I've done in almost 40 years on the air. But I've also done podcast shows, one called Things We Said Today, which is bi-weekly now, these days. And there's a solo Beatles podcast show called Talk More Talk, which is also bi-weekly, but that's a video show. And now that I can see you on camera, we have to invite you on to Talk More Talk. But yeah, and I also was on XM Radio for 5.5 years, and they ran Every Little Thing, and they also ran short features that I used to do on the 60s channel, 60s on 6. I used to do Beatles news breaks for them. And I did another short feature just called Beatle Breaks, which were simply the stories behind songs. If I can get a clip of one of the Beatles talking about them or George Martin, and that would be a short little thing about a minute long leading into that song.
Right.
So for that period of time, I was on 2 different channels on XM Radio, on the 60s channel and on one called Fine Tuning, which they no longer have. You know?
One of my favorite podcasts that you do, Ken, is Talk More Talk. And it has a couple of my favorite people on there besides yourself. One lady is Kid O'Toole.
She's dynamite. She's like the nicest person.
Yeah.
The nicest person I know.
The queen of all things Beatles.
That's right.
She is. She's one of my favorite people too. And I try to emulate myself after her when I started doing my shows. And she's taught me a lot.
She's a really good friend. She's not only a good host, but she's a really good writer. You know, she wrote the book Songs We Were Singing, guided tours through the Beatles' lesson known work. She's written the book on Michael Jackson. And also, you know, since I'm so busy with my other shows, one of the greatest pleasures in doing Talk More Talk is that Kit does all the work for it. I mean, she puts it on every single platform there is, including YouTube. So I just show up and talk.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's it.
I plan on having Kid on in the coming months because I got a lot going on in my personal life. We're going to be moving, and that's going to, you know, across country down south, and that's going to be stressful.
Yeah,
to New Orleans, baby.
And there you go, hometown.
To New Orleans.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm originally from New Orleans, yes, born and raised, and then when I go back, I'm going to live on what's called the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, about 30 miles from downtown New Orleans, like that.
Right.
Okay.
Not that far.
Hey, Pat, you're real good friends. You're real good friends with Bruce Spicer, and he's from New Orleans also. You live around him, or have you grown up with him or anything?
Bruce lives by Audubon Park. Can you hear me?
No, we're losing you.
I talked to Bruce right before Christmas. Actually, when I was visiting New Orleans, I talked to him.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
he's got a nice new book out.
When you talk about the one Ken, when you mentioned the podcast that you do, I used to do based on Bruce's books. He would do when he did the books on the solo Beatles. He would do like these snippets from his book, and he would introduce particular songs that, you know, and we would do that on BeatlesARama. It was called a Beatle Minute with Bruce Spicer.
Okay.
Awesome.
He's great, though. He's one of those people that never is at a loss for words. You know, he's got something to say about everything. And, you know, it's amazing how many books he has written at this point. I often say, because I work with Ken Womack, too, Ken's done a lot of great work on the Beatles, and it seems like every time you turn around, he's got a new book out. He's going to catch up to Bruce at some point. But yeah, no, Bruce is really great. I love all the work that he's done. The Beatles on Capitol Records, on VJ, you know, a lot of good stuff.
My question for you, Ken, if you can hear me,
now I can.
What gave you the idea to call the show Every Little Thing, and the idea about basing it on, you know, not just the Beatles, but their solo works?
Well, the show started on college radio, like I had mentioned. And in the very beginning, I had the absolute lamest title there ever was for a Beatles show, which is the All Request Beatles Show. How imaginative that was. And I was always kind of searching for, you know, a really good title without trying to steal it from anybody. I didn't want to do a Ticket to Ride. I didn't want to be one of the many Breakfast with the Beatles shows. So, and I also knew that I had to pick a title that I hoped everybody would know. You know, even if there was a title that could fit from the solo Beatles, you know, but when I hit upon Every Little Thing, when I was going through all the titles of Beatles songs, I just said that really fits what my show is all about. When I first started doing the show on college radio, I just did a Beatles show the way I thought it should be done. I didn't have anything to base it on. I had no other shows to compare it to. I really don't know if I'm the first person to ever do a weekly Beatles show, because the only other one that I remember at the time was a syndicated show, Ringo's Yellow Submarine. But I never heard any local shows where I was living on Long Island or in the tri-state area that was done every single week. So I just made it up from scratch. And I think the biggest influence in doing that show was the discography of All Together Now, from Harry Castleman and Wally Podrazik. And I love that book because even though it's just a discography, that one book took you through 1975. It had the Beatles music, it had the solo music, it had BBC recordings, it told you who the original artists were of songs the Beatles covered, which I know you play on your channel, Pat, even the stuff from, say, Sentimental Journey, the original artists from that. It had Apple recording artists. It had songs the Beatles wrote for other people. And, you know, once you expand it to all that, there's just so much music to explore. And as great as the Beatles group catalog is, and, you know, I'm not going to argue with anyone that thinks it's the greatest catalog of all time, it can be limiting if that's all that you play. And that's even in addition to the BBC stuff and bootlegs and, you know, now all the archival box sets and the Beatles anthology and everything else you want to throw in there. It's still based on 12 to 13 albums of material, and it's amazing to study and explore. But once you add everything else, especially all the solo music, you're going from, say, 12 to 13 albums to over 100. So to me, that's what makes it exciting. I like mixing songs that everybody knows with deeper cuts. And then I like to throw a bone in there of something that even probably a hardcore fan might not know. And that even includes cover versions, which I know you play a lot of on your channel. You know,
do you have a Facebook page as well?
Sure, Ken Michaels. You can go right there. And I have my website, which is kenmichaelsradio.com. And you know, I'm sure you've probably seen I flood Facebook with so much of my stuff.
That's what you got to do these days.
You know, I'm a walking advertisement of myself. But the website, every single week, there's trivia. There's so many different games that I've invented through the years that I've used on my show, Every Little Thing. And then I just transfer that over to the website. And every single week I have prizes that I give away. There's 10 prizes to pick from. And so this is all stuff that I've been doing as far as trivia for almost 40 years now on a regular basis. And there's loads of interviews with people in the Beatle world. And most of those are, well, all of those are audio interviews. Now that I have a YouTube channel, which is something else, those are all video interviews. But really, the website is an extension of all the work that I do in radio on the Beatles. Really,
I have a great title for your YouTube show.
Okay.
Something new.
Okay. All right. I'll give that my consideration.
Hey, Warren, let me try something. Okay, this is nothing personal, but I've never had 3 people on at the same time before. Okay,
I think that's
I want to see if that's what's happening. That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring you back momentarily, but I just want to see.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's no problem.
All right. Okay. Let's see if this works any better. Because what was happening before was that we were losing, one feed, me and then Warren and then you and then all 3 of us. And then, I mean, I don't know if you could see all that, but it was just popping in and out. So what are your big plans for this coming year besides your YouTube channel?
Just continuing with more of these shows. I mean, between the 3 shows alone, the 2 podcast shows and Every Little Thing, well, hopefully, if and when this pandemic ends, I was also doing a live broadcast of Every Little Thing, which isn't a carbon copy of the recorded show. It's the same format, but it's completely loose and live on the air, and that's with news, which the syndicated show that you carry doesn't have. So hopefully that'll come back. And then, now I've got the YouTube channel. In a way, if you add all that up, that's like 5 shows.
Yeah, right.
Which is insane, plus the website. So that alone keeps me busy. And as far as work on the Beatles is concerned, there's always books coming out. And I'm constantly reading, and I have to spend a lot of my spare time doing that to prepare for these shows and to interview these people. And so, believe me, that takes up all of my time.
Yeah. So you have a radio station that you're actually on where you do the show live?
Well, yeah, normally it would be on WNHU, which is New Haven University, actually in West Haven, Connecticut. It was on Wednesday nights. And, it's the main difference there is, like I said, I have news every single week. And I also have news in the podcast shows, but, I cut it back for the 1 hour live show. And I could take requests as the show is going on, whereas the syndicated show just goes out there.
Right.
So, yeah, but I really love being on the air live more than anything else. I feel like I'm much more comfortable as a live performer on the air than, a pre-recorded show.
Well, that's right. Pre-recorded show, you tend to want to over perfection everything. You know what I mean?
That's right. They say just be natural, and you try to be natural, and if you try too hard, it doesn't sound natural.
Right.
But yeah, but I love being on the air live, and certainly with Talk More Talk, that is a live broadcast, and I wish there were a lot more live shows.
Now, Warren, put your shirt back on because I'm putting you back on the air. Wait.
That's funny. Good one, Pat. First of all, Pat, with Skype, the more people you had on Skype, the more problems you would have with people freezing up and you lose them. So that could be your problem there.
Yeah, but you know what's good though, Warren, is that you guys are both on computers. I had Jude Sutherland Kessler. I just remembered this. I had Jude Sutherland Kessler on, and Lena Stagg. He was on, and she was on an iPhone. It was horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, try to stay away from the iPhone or.
Right.
That can sound very high end.
Yeah. Oh, it was screeching all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, so you got a question for Ken and Warren?
Yeah, sure I do. First of all, you mentioned bootlegs, so I got my albums behind me, and I grabbed a couple bootlegs. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, but
okay, that's not a bootleg. That came out legitimately.
It did.
Yeah, that was on Rhino Records.
I have that.
Okay.
Yeah, those are all novelty records on the Beatles for anyone
that's a bootleg.
Recovered tracks. I don't have that one.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of them here, so
Like,
I think this was one too.
oh, I have that as well. Live from the San Houston Coliseum in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much of what you have there, I have on CD, just
Right.
packaged differently.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
That's not a bootleg. That's a legitimate release.
isn't that on That's on VJ, I think.
VJ, yep.
I'm an album collector, and I collect all kinds of albums. So
I still have. I've never thrown out anything, and never will, on the Beatles.
Right.
And if I have multiple copies, sometimes I went into used record stores and I would buy Beatles albums that I had 5 times over. Another copy of Meet the Beatles, $1. I'll take it, you know. But I still wouldn't throw them out. You know,
Yeah, no.
you know.
Anytime I see a Beatles record, I buy it. So
I have so many duplicate copies that I put some of them in frames as wall art. You know what I mean? So
I got
That's a good idea.
I got singles and frames all around the place.
Is that the original sleeve for All You Need Is Love back there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Very
So anyway, Ken, I want you do solo Beatles, and I know you keep up with Paul McCartney.
Uh-huh.
And I want to get your thoughts on his new Paul McCartney III album.
I think it's a near great album. I really love it.
Near great.
Near great. Yeah. You know, a lot of albums take a while to grow on you. Most of McCartney's albums, at least the last couple, that in Egypt Station, took about 3-4 listens before I really started to appreciate it. And I like the sound of his DIY stuff. You know, I like when he produces himself. He is a really good producer just by himself. And, you know, I think, you know, sometimes like after the 70s, most of the 70s, Paul produced himself, with the rare exception of George Martin with Live and Let Die, or co-producing Back to the Egg with Chris Thomas. But the sound that people got used to from Paul in the 70s, they grew to love. That natural, pure, organic sound. A lot of people like to go back to that early 70s McCartney, Wildlife period, Ram, and they love that a lot. And a lot of people miss that. And I think sometimes, like when you listen to McCartney III, not so much McCartney II, but McCartney III, yeah, you get that kind of vibe listening to it. Still a modern sound as well. But as always, the one hallmark of Paul is that he's so diverse. There's a lot of different musical styles all over the album. A song like Deep, Deep Feeling, which the first time I heard it, I said, when is this song going to end? It went on for 8 minutes.
After 8.5 minutes, I think. Right?
And I grew to love it. And I grew to appreciate all the, you know, the work that he put into it. I'm a big fan of counter melody. When you've got several melodies going on simultaneously, and you work them into the song.
He's a master of that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Silly Love Songs, Wanderlust, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so he uses that in Deep, Deep Feeling. I love Women and Wives. That's become one of my favorite songs on the album. I love how it kicks in with Long Tail Winter Bird. The sound of it with the acoustic guitar is just right in your face. Is absolutely wonderful. Find My Way, I think, is a great track. Kind of reminds me a bit of Ever Present Past.
And the video for Find My Way is incredible.
Yeah, a lot of different camera angles all at once with Paul playing different instruments. Yeah, I love that. You've seen all the lyric videos that have come out. I think some of them are pretty clever. Yeah. No, I really like it a lot. I've grown to adapt to his older voice. I don't mind it. I only mind when he tries to cover it up on a song like Slidin'. Slidin' is a great rocker. It's, you know, the edgy song on the album, but his vocals are pushed way back. And I'd rather hear his vocals, even if they're strained, I'd rather hear them up front. You know, one of the great joys in listening to someone like Paul is his voice. And I don't mind his voice older, you know. Pretty Boys, I like a lot. You know, every song on there really. Seize the Day is a really good song. A lot of people.
The only song on the album I don't care for
is
Okay, I don't know if you could hear me. I said the only song that I don't care for is Lavatory Lil.
No, okay, I like it. It's a cute
Anybody
song.
home?
What?
Hello?
Yeah. What don't you like about it,
You
Pat?
guys still there? Ken?
Yep.
Ken?
Here.
Yeah, we're here. Pat, you can put me in the background and just keep you and Ken up there.
All right, let me see. So Lavatory Lil, you like that song?
I like it. It's not my favorite on there. The thing about
Uh-huh.
Lavatory Lil, it's a cute song. I wish that he had more of a full band to back it up to give it a little more edge. You know, it
It's kind
sounds
of
more
honey pie,
demo-ish.
right?
Hmm?
Yeah. I said it's kind of honey pie-ish, and I think it deserves a little bit more production.
I
Think?
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you. Yeah, it needs a little
Yeah.
bit more instrumentation to it. It comes across
Mhm.
somewhat like a better demo, but
Mhm.
I think I said on Talk More Talk that I'd like to see Paul and his band do that song live. I think that would have a
Mhm.
lot more bite to it. It's
Yeah.
not nearly.
Okay.
It's kind of I don't want to say limp, uh, as a studio recording, but I still like it. He sounds like he's having a lot of fun on that song.
Yeah.
The only
I
song that I don't care for, in 1 minute I want to hear your opinion, but is Deep Down. Deep Down is, there are certain songs in Paul McCartney's career that you enjoy as a recording, but it's not a great composition. It's kind
You
of
know,
like that.
I'd like to take that song and edit it down to about 4.5 minutes to see if
Hmm,
if it could be made to be listenable. You know what I
Deep
mean?
Down.
Because yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think it's listenable, and I like him playing around with his voice a lot on the song. But I'm talking about compositionally. It's just the same thing repeated over and over again.
hmm
There are certain songs that I categorize in Paul's catalog like that would be something. As a composition, there ain't much there, but
hmm
you like it because you love the sound of his voice on the record, you love the drums, you love how hot the bass is. Ram On is another case of a song that I love dearly. I love everything about the recording, but it's not much of a composition. You know what I'm saying? It's everything you put into it. It's the
yeah,
ukulele and the piano bit and the great harmonies on Ram On. So Deep Down is just the same thing repeated over and over again. I'd like to hear, not that every song has to be verse chorus, but a little bit more work than the same thing over and over.
yeah. When did you become friends with Ringo?
Friends. Since 1964, since I first heard him on the radio, he was my friend.
No,
No, but
I'm talking
okay,
about that is Ringo that you're pictured with. That's not the doppelganger, is it?
no, no, that's Ringo. That was the first time that I ever interviewed him. And what year was that? I should know this by now. It was on August 28th, 1992. And that was in New Jersey. What was the venue? But it was in the middle of the All-Star Band show. And if you recall, in the beginning and for many tours, in the middle of his shows, he would let individual members have solo numbers. So
Mhm.
Ringo would come off stage and take a break. So I did like a 5-minute interview with him, and Joe Walsh joined me, and it was fun. You
Yeah.
know, he actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Is this Ken Michaels, the legend?" And then I don't know how I had the nerve for anything to come out of my mouth at that moment. And I just said, "I'll never be as big a legend as you, Ringo." The fact that I even moved my mouth at that moment and I said anything and anything that made sense, I
Yeah.
can't believe I was able to do that. But yeah, that's from that show. Um, it was in New Jersey. I can't believe I'm not remembering the venue, but it was August 28th, 1992, from the second All Star Band tour.
Mhm.
And I talked to him about his songwriting, which I like to bring up a lot because most people aren't aware of how much Ringo has written as a solo artist, especially since, say, Vertical Man on.
That was pre Mark Hudson though, right? In 92.
Yes, but I was
Mhm.
talking to him more about Vinnie Poncia
Right, right,
then.
right.
And
because I thought Ringo and Mark Hudson were perfect together. I don't know what happened to split that up, but they were great. I mean, he knew Beatles production like the back of his hand.
right. But there's also the possibility that after a while, Ringo wanted to move away from that and not be too reliant on a Beatles sound. Although he still mentions them in songs.
Yeah.
You know, he still makes references all the time, especially when he wants to have autobiographical songs, which he's done, like Liverpool 8 and all that. But I will agree with you. I look at the albums like Vertical Man, Ringo-Rama, and Choose Love as being 3 of the best albums of Ringo's solo career. And I love the Christmas album too. They did a great job on that, you know, with Mark Hudson.
So what do you think about Rotogravure? You like that album?
It's good. It's not one of his best, but it's got some really good songs on it. I love Pure Gold a lot. Usually whenever any of the Beatles wrote for Ringo, they tended to be songs that really fit his vocal range and really work for him. Although I think Cookin' in the Kitchen of Love is probably the weakest of the songs that John wrote for Ringo. I'll Still Love You, George Harrison wrote. And Jesse Ed Davis does a guitar solo on there that sounds just like George. But I loved A Dose of Rock and Roll. I loved You Don't Know Me at All. Really good pop song there. It definitely has its moments. Crying is a highlight for me because he's so good at doing country-esque songs. And he wrote that one with Vinnie Poncia. So, yeah.
We play all of that. We play all of that.
As you must.
Best radio station on this planet.
Thank you, Warren. And I didn't have to slip him any money or anything for that. Well, listen, Ken, it's been a pleasure, man. And I really appreciate you coming on as the first show of this year. And I may be sending this one to Warren so that he can edit it to get all the goofs out, because usually I don't have to do that. But we don't want to embarrass anybody, okay?
Right.
So,
it's a pleasure. And I just want people to know, be prepared, because I'm going to be interviewing each of you. You can come on my channel.
All right. All right.
Ken,
I've got a lot of outlets.
Just to let you know, Ken, you will be my first interviewer. My first interview, if you have me on anyway. I've never been on anybody else's show before.
Okay, well, it's high time. Let's make it happen.
and he says that considering me nobody. So thank you.
No, not at all. Not at all. They're going to be. It's going to be a multi-part interview with you.
There you go.
There's just too many. But I'm going to stretch it out over a long period of time.
All right, Warren.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ken. All right, guys, that's it. And we're going to be coming up with some more. Like I mentioned before, Rick Bedrosian is going to be on, and I'm working on Ken Mansfield and some other people. And as, of course, Kid O'Toole will be coming up. She doesn't know it yet, but we will let her know. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You have a great